Our next game takes us to the number 4 seed Arizona Wildcats, just lost in the Big 12 championship to Houston, and the Akron Zips, 4-13 matchup here. Initial thought for me, this game I think is going to be full of offense. Going to be played at a pretty fast pace. I think Akron loves to get up their threes. I know their first game in their conference tournament, they got up 15 out of their first 17 shots from behind the arc in the first 11 minutes of the game. They were just chucking, and they're fully capable of getting hot pretty quick, as we've seen. Akron's 3-point shooting, I think, is fully capable of keeping them in this game. But they're going to have to continue running hot from what they did in their conference tournament. But they've shown it for most of the year. Nate Johnson is a name to watch here. I think he could be a guy that people really get to know about after this game, win or lose. He was really good in the conference tournament. I think it was either the semifinal or the final. He had 31. He had the game-winning shot in the final. They had to battle back against Miami, Ohio, and ended up winning by 2 on his game winner. Initial thought for me, I think Arizona takes care of business here. I think they're just too good. They're playing good basketball right now, despite losing that Big 12 championship game. But Akron has the offense to at least hang around, I think.
Yeah, Akron. I think Akron is going to have to hit at least 15 threes to hang around in this game. I mean, they could hang around with a few less, but they play too quick, and I'm always looking to back Arizona when the game's going to be played at a fast pace, and the other team is willing to play at that fast pace, because we've seen Arizona get slowed down and really struggle at times, and that's not really going to be the situation here. I think they have a lot of advantages on the offensive end. They can get all over the glass. They can get to the free throw line, like Akron's 200th in the country in free throw rate on the defensive end, and 163rd in 2-point defense in like a kind of a weaker MAC conference this year. So yeah, and 186th overall in defensive efficiency, a much more offensive-minded team, as you said. And they have a ton of shooting to shoot over the top of an Arizona defense that likes to pack it in a little bit. But overall, I just think this Arizona team playing at the pace that they want to play at, it's not really upset material here. It's not like a Princeton situation where they were able to execute in the half court and then get back in transition, and then Arizona had to play against a set defense. It's going to be an open style game. When it's an open style game, I think Arizona can beat literally any team in the country. And I think they can kind of not name their number, but I think they can win this game by potentially 20 to 25. I could see them, the spread sitting at like 14 and a half right now. I do think they cover that.
Yeah. Those 3 guards in KJ Lewis, Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, to your point, right? When this game is sped up and they get to play it much like an AAU game, right? That's kind of what those 3 guards are, just like AAU style guards where it's just get out and run, play fast pace, just attack the rim relentlessly, get into the lane and hit those little floaters and things of that nature. So I definitely think that when the game is quicker, especially against an inferior opponent, that Arizona is going to be able to take care of business. We saw Arizona in a similar fast-paced game, granted much better team, but with BYU. BYU did beat them, but this BYU team and Akron team are much different teams. I think that Arizona will be able to take care of business. I think we might see maybe some more Carter Bryant in this game. He's been playing pretty well of late, and especially if this is going to be like one of those track meets, and they're going to need to close out to shooters. I expect a little bit more Carter Bryant in this one.
Yeah, exactly. And Akron plays a 4-guard lineup a lot of the time with Johnson, Tavari Johnson, Nate Johnson, and Shama Scott and then Isaiah Gray as the other guard. They'll play that lineup a lot with like Okonkwo at the 5. Josiah Harris will play in there a little bit. Like they're a super small lineup, so that I don't think you're going to see the two big lineup for Arizona all that much. Like Owaka and Vesar might get like just run around and just get killed off the bounce. And yeah, Carter Bryant would be a really good neutralizer for that, and he can still get on the glass. He would be like bigger than any other player that Akron's going to throw out on the floor. So yeah, I do think this is a potential mismatch here, but something says that John Gross is just going to completely slow this game down. I've seen him do this before in tournament games. Like I know against UCLA, like obviously UCLA plays slow with Cronin, but he was walking the ball up the floor as well. And he tried to make that game like 50 possessions. And I've seen him try to do that. He did it last year a little bit too. They didn't really run all that much against Creighton. That game kind of got away from them with Creighton's offense getting hot, but I've seen him kind of try to slow the pace down in these tournament settings. And I think he might be aware that he can't really run with Arizona. So maybe he kind of changes things up and trusts that his guys can adapt to a slower play style and kind of just shoot the crap out of it in the 60 possession game and keep it close. So that's just like something I can see happening in the back of my mind.
It's just such a hard thing to do, I think. Like
it is
changing the way that you play after you played that way for 30, 35 games, right? Where you're just walking a fine line where your players are kind of unsure of like, okay, we got a defensive rebound. Typically, we would really look to push this. Maybe there's an opportunity, maybe there's not, but our coach wants us to slow it up. And so you start playing a bit more conservative and just kind of playing for possessions instead of like playing to win the game. So it becomes very tricky, I think, mentally for the players when you're trying to change styles in that way, where you play a faster pace typically and are trying to slow it down. So, maybe they could try it and be able to adapt to it, but in my experience, I found it pretty difficult to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's probably not going to happen, but it's just the last 3 years he's been outside of the top. His teams have been outside of the top 250 in pace. 2022, when they were in the tournament, 352nd nationally in pace. That was the year they played UCLA and kept it tight. And in 2024, last year against Creighton, 276th in pace. This year, they're 19th in adjusted pace. Like this is the fastest pace team that Gross has ever had. So maybe just trying to lean into that. But he's played in a tournament game with this slow pace before, and he's seen his teams keep it tight. So maybe it happens, probably not. It's not a great transition defense. So hopefully he's aware of that and can maybe adjust in a way and just like try to make it a little bit more of a half court game. But most likely Arizona kind of gets what they want on the offensive end just because they're just so much bigger than this team.
Yeah, for sure. So, look for Arizona to win this game and maybe the start of a little bit more Caleb Love magic, the last opportunity for some Caleb Love magic in March for those of you that enjoy watching him. For me, he's on my least favorite players list, but he can be quite polarizing, especially in a tournament setting when he gets hot. So expect Arizona to run away with this one probably unless Akron's able to utilize their offense and make a bunch of threes. But should be a fun game with a lot of offense.